Okay, let's start. Our next presenter is Patrik. Patrik is going to talk about should you use Next.js for your next project. So, stage is yours, Patrik.
Thank you. So hello everyone, I am Patrik and I'm very happy that I can be here with you today. My topic is about Next.js. It will be primarily about Next.js with a browser. But let me start with a question. Can you please raise your hand if you use Next.js on a daily basis, let's say? Okay, so few of you, those of you that use Next.js daily, you will probably hate me because my talk is really just on surface, but hopefully you will enjoy it. And for those that don't use Next.js, I hope that you will learn something interesting. So here is our agenda for today. I will talk a little bit about React Server components because React is now, let's say, server first. Then I will mention good things about Next.js. I will mention not ideal things about Next.js. And of course, there will be some conclusion. Please know that these are just my thoughts. You can surely disagree with me, and I will be happy with that. So let's jump into it. I will start with React Server components. I think that we all understand that React is all about components. Basically, you give React component props and it will render a piece of UI. In practice, each component is a function that returns a React node. If you fold a lot of components together, you have a React tree. And React tree is just a root component with a lot of child components. So far, so simple, but what's about server components? It's funny, we have now basically two Reacts. We can understand that we have React Server and React Client. React Server takes the full React component tree, executes component until it reaches client component, it's the first execution, and the result is something that is called React Server Component Payload, which you can imagine as something like executed and not executed components. It sends React Server Component Payload to React Client, and React Client is something that always was React, and it just know how to finish the whole tree. In more practical way, imagine that you have an application, you visit a page, and it will start render server component until it reaches the client component, the yellow one, and it defers the execution, sends the React server component payload to React client, and it finishes the execution. Recently, I read a very good article that described server component versus client components, something like it's just about environment. If you use server components, you can use Node.js API, and if you use client components, you can use browser API. I really like this, let's say, how to call it, mental model about two Reacts, and it simplifies how you can think about it. But that was quick introduction to React component. We can discuss it further afterwards. But now let's move to Next.js. The first thing that I like about Next.js is folder-based routing. As you can see on the screen, you basically define your routes based on your folders. For example, dashboard, setting, and it works really well. It's easy. Other frameworks has adopted this paradigm, let's say, and it's cool. It's I like it a lot. You can use it in a simple way, as you can see on the image, or you can do more advanced features like dynamic routes. For example, if you want to render let's say detailed page based on user ID, you can simply do it, or you can even do something that is called intercepting routes, which can render road on another road, and you can think, okay, what's about it? But imagine that you want to render in a tooltip detail page, like preview of detail page, and you can easily do it with intercepting roads. So yeah, it's very powerful. The next thing that I like about Next.js is something that is called layout. And I like it because you can define layout of your application in one file, which you have to have one layout file, which is called a root layout. And you can define, for example, left panel, top panel, body, and these basic components. And it's shared across the screens, so across the navigation. It preserves state. It doesn't reload. So I use it in our project, and it's cool. The next thing that I like about Next.js can be simply described as developer experience, because Next.js does a lot of things for you out of the box. It optimizes images, it caches data as much as possible, it optimizes fonts, and it's quite cool. Also, one thing that I like about Next.js is great documentation, because you can find a lot of useful information here. Even if you don't plan to use Next.js, you can learn a lot of good engineering practice, let's say. On the other hand, things that I don't like, or I don't know how to describe my feeling, but with Next.js and with React now, you can use something that is called server actions, and it's a function that is run on server, but you can call it from client component or server component. And you can use it in a good way, but you can use it as in a bad way. For example, as you can see in the code snippet, it's probably not something that you want to deploy in a production. And it's in Next.js, it's quite simple to do it. So I don't know. I would like to discuss it with you after my presentation. What do you think about server actions? So yeah, the thing that I'm struggling most are the way how you fetch data in Next.js. If you use server rendering and you want to refresh data on your client, let's say every 5 minutes, or you want to use WebSocket, you have a lot of duplicity. You need to first fetch data on server, and then you need to fetch data on client. Especially if you use, for example, React query, you have to do it twice. So I don't know. I think that there needs to be some improvements, maybe both in Next.js and in React query. But right now it's not very easy to use. And the last thing about Next.js that I don't like is, let's say, if you want to use something that is not part of Vercel, that is a company behind Next.js, it is very hard. For example, we need to use WebSockets, and in the wall documentation is just one sentence about WebSocket that you should not use it. I understand it that from business perspective that Next.js doesn't want to promote this feature because they want to deploy it on their hosting, and with WebSocket it's quite hard. So, but I don't like this approach. They should give you at least some information how you can use it. And the very last thing is more about React, but React now React documentation now says that you should use Next.js or Remix or other, let's say, meta frameworks, and it's, I don't know, a little bit weird. I think that React should not recommend you to use other frameworks. But anyway, to answer a question, if you should use Next.js on your next project, I would recommend it to you. It will solve a lot of things out of the box. It will help you, but sometimes it will be like, just what the fuck. So yeah, so hopefully you enjoy it, and thank you for your time.
Are there any new questions to Patrik? you can ask directly using Slido.
Why would you design a server component to be something that its data updates so frequently that I would face this problem?
Yeah, we preload data on a server. For example, if we have table, so we during rendering or during build time, we fetch data, then we render the page, and for example, after 30 seconds, we want to reload the data, so we use WebSocket for that. But this use case, you firstly need to fetch data on server and then again on client. So it's a little bit weird.
So in which case you would recommend to use Next.js in our next application?
Yeah. From my perspective, if you don't need to, for example, some heavy application that needs to roll out every few seconds, I wouldn't recommend it. But if you want to build, for example, some static website that needs to just load data, just during build time or during render process, it's very good to use from my perspective.
I guess that when you need some server-side rendering instead of using React, just React.
Yeah.
What about deploying Next.js apps? Because I know you can deploy them in Vercel, but it also can be very expensive. So
yeah, that's true. Also, good question. One thing that I didn't mention is that if you use server actions, it can be very expensive because they are basically deployed on AWS serverless functions, and it can be expensive. And currently, in Next.js, you can modify your build, and you can build like standalone application that you can deploy anywhere. But the documentation, obviously the documentation for this is not very good because it doesn't benefit Vercel because you will deploy it somewhere else. So yeah. Today on Reddit, I read a discussion if you should use React with white build. I don't know. Now we are about to build some application that will have basically high, very client intensive fetching data, and I am thinking about using just pure React. Or recently I experimented with a framework called Quick, which should really good, but I don't know. It's complicated and it needs a further discussion. Let's say. We started to build it like a month ago, so it's like 50-50 right now, but in the future, I think it will be, I don't know, right now it's like 50-50. So yeah, that's the case. Are React Server components limited by rendering strategies such as server-side rendering, static rendering, etc.? As far as I know, I don't think so, because React team works closely with Next.js team, so I don't think that there is any limitation at all. But surely, I don't know. Good question. If you have another question, I will be there the whole evening, so we can talk about Next.js in more details. Thank you.